Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hi, welcome to Meg's roast of the worst books of 2023. Today I am going to be roasting the 10 worst books that I read in 2023, according to me, the Roastmaster. Roastmaster Meg. Yes, thank you for noticing. I'm wearing a blazer today because you never know what celebrities are going to show up to the roast. You know, you never know when Pete Davidson's going to be around, so you gotta impress. Before we go ahead and get started, I just want to quickly say, if you loved any of these books good, I'm glad for you. That's the beauty of being a human being. I know, right? We're human beings. That's news to some of you. So all I ask is that you behave. Children, behave. I called you children because if you leave hate comments on people's videos, you're literally a child. So yeah, we all have different opinions and thoughts, and books are subjective. I know that's news to some of you. I'll let it sink in for a moment. So I actually put these in order. So I'm going to be starting with number 10. So all of these are 1-star insufferable books in my opinion. But number 10 is like the most tolerable of these 10, and then number 1 is just like the worst of the worst. I don't understand the hype. If you're new here, hi! I'm in rare form today. Actually, this is my usual form. If you're not new here, you know I rant a lot on this channel. There were a ton of books that I absolutely hated in 2023. You cannot find a single wrap-up video on my channel where I'm not screaming about one of these books. So without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and get started with number 10, which is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. I know, everyone's favorite book, right? This book makes no goddamn sense. So this book is about this man who like lives in this house and you're just like following his life, and then there's also a cat that talks and reads the Bible, and then there's also a little girl that lives in this house. Like they all just live in this house together. It's weird, okay? That's all you need to know. I will not be spoiling any of these books, by the way. I'm just ranting. This book makes no sense, okay? It's one of those books where it writes like, oh, I'm really smart. I'm really smarter than you. But the entire book makes no sense until the end. And then the end is like all wrapped up and everything. Pretty much everyone on YouTube has already spoiled this book. So if you know anything more than what I just told you, it's spoiled. It's done. You won't enjoy it. Just give up. Just go. Just give up already, okay? I just hate books that are written like they're smart. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm purposely gonna write a book that makes absolutely no sense just so it can make sense in the end. But it's like, what is the point? Because I'm reading this long, thick book, and like, for what purpose? It's just a bunch of nonsense. Like, can anyone actually get through this and be intrigued? Because after like 100 pages of this, I was suffering. And if I wanted to sit and suffer through a whole bunch of things that didn't make any sense, I would just sit and listen to my own thoughts, okay? I would just sit and watch my own videos, okay? Because this was not it. This was a waste of time. Coming in at number 9 was one that I just read about 2 weeks ago, and it's The Laws of the Skies. Another one that everyone seems to love except for me. This is a book where it's kind of like a Lord of the Flies situation where there's a group of boys, or chaperones, I guess. They go on this trip into like the middle of the woods, and there's one boy that's really evil, and he starts picking them off, and he starts killing the other boys. And basically it tells you in the beginning of the book that all of these people in the story are going to die one way or another. What is the purpose of this book? Can someone tell me what the point of this book is? Is it just shock value? Because I didn't find it all that shocking or gross or anything. I was just bored because these 6-year-olds, they're 6 by the way, yeah, they're 6. These 6-year-olds read like they are 15. It was very weird. they have these long streams of consciousness that just go on and on and on that get really philosophical. And I'm like, why are these 6-year-olds having these philosophical thoughts? It doesn't make sense. This is another perfect example of a book that acts like it's smarter than the reader. It feels pretentious. I hate it. I hate books like this. And quite honestly, I didn't see the point. Like, we already knew from the synopsis of this book that everyone was gonna die. And that's all that happens in the book. So I'm like, what is the purpose? And my question is, why does everyone seem to love this book, but yet they hate on extreme horror? I know, it doesn't make sense to me. You're gonna love this book because it's more like mainstream or whatever, but then you're going to hate on extreme horror for the same reasons. Make it make sense. It's not mathing. The math ain't mathing. Also, this book was translated from French, I believe, and I just feel like it was just poorly done. Like, I really don't think that it was translated well because it was just paragraphs of like crap. It was just paragraphs of crap. That's how I can describe this book to the best of my ability. Coming in hot at number 8 is Are You Happy Now? This book, no, I'm not happy now. I'm fucking angry and want to blow my brains out. That's how I feel. That's how I felt when I was reading this book and after I finished it. This book is about depression because it makes you want to die. This book is about this like group of millennials, I think, and there's a virus that hits. And basically what this virus is doing is it's making everyone go catatonic. So people are catching this virus and they just like sit on the floor and go completely mute. They don't move. And scientists aren't sure if this is like some form of depression or what's going on with this virus. But it happens like after the pandemic happened, so they think it has to do with depression, so on and so forth, okay? The problem with this book, it seemed like a great concept going in, but the problem with this book is like it's a more contemporary style book where you're just following couples, like you're following these different people and these different couples and their day-to-day life. So I'm like, okay, what's going on with this virus? What? And instead I'm reading about, you know, Susan going to the market to get potatoes and she's depressed today and, you know, oh, she has to go to the family dinner tonight. And I'm like, excuse me, what the fuck is this book about? What is this? We're just following a bunch of people doing absolutely nothing, being depressed for no reason. I mean, relatable, but like I wouldn't want to read a book about my life, you know? And the stuff that I was actually interested in was just like sprinkled in here and there and like didn't have much to do with anything. This book was so poorly written. It was so poorly done and it was such a slog to get through. I was actively suffering. I was suffering. What just happened? Snow, did you just pull the plug on my ring light? She's like, that's enough. I've heard enough. Okay, coming in at number 7 is A House at the Bottom of a Fucking Lake by Josh Malerman. So this book is about these 2 teenagers that find a house at the bottom of the lake. That's it. Just as the title suggests. Yeah, sounds like a thrilling time, right? I was genuinely thrilled reading this book. Oh, I was just at the edge of my seat. I was like, how much longer are they gonna swim for? Oh my gosh, okay, the book's halfway over and we're still swimming. And then they find a house at the bottom of a lake. No way. Wild. It was so boring. This book had no purpose. There was no point to this book other than to bore me to tears. And what killed me is like, they were children and there were like explicit sex scenes in this book that grossed me out because they were children. And there was like a lot of comments about her breasts. I just felt really weird reading this. It was just one of those books where I was like, why was that in here? What is going on here? Listen, once again, another one of those books that seems to be really popular, but yet those same people will hate on extreme horror. So number 6 is a book that I actually don't remember what it's even about. It's The Spite House by Johnny Compton. What is this book about? I don't remember. I don't know. What is this book? It's about a haunted house? Honestly, can't tell you a single thing about this book. Yeah, and I read it physically. I don't remember what the hell it's about. It was so boring. This book bored me to absolute tears. I had tears streaming down my face like I just cut up an onion. And I was actively suffering through this because it was a buddy read with my friend Chris. And I was actively dying on the inside, but I didn't want to let him down. This was bad. I mean, this was like really bad. Really, really bad. It wasn't scary, it wasn't spooky, it was just like weird. There were so many POVs too. I mean, I kid you not, there were probably 50 POVs. Every chapter, there were like short chapters with like 1,000 POVs. There were like random birds outside that had POVs. There was like every single person you can imagine that just walked into this man's life for like 2 seconds had a POV in this book. Things became really convoluted, really confusing, and I just think that this was really poorly done. I'm sorry I can't tell you more because it's not memorable in the slightest. My body basically saw this memory and was like, yeah, we have no use for this, and just threw it away. Coming in at number 5 is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. Yeah, this is another one that's basically about nothing. So we're following this girl as she navigates life. Yeah, we're learning about her, and we're learning about her friends and her little relationship that is going on, and we're learning about the fact that she has a mysterious chronic pain condition, which is endometriosis. And that's the reason I read this book, because I have endometriosis, if you didn't know. So I was like, oh, I'm interested in reading a book about a character that has endo. But this is just a book about cheating, infidelity, her cheating on her boyfriend, and going to the ER with chronic pain. And what kills me about this book is the endometriosis rep was so poorly done. I don't know what the hell she thought when she wrote this book. She really thought that she knew about endometriosis, and she's like, I'm gonna write this book and put endo rep in there. But like, clearly didn't have the right research or the right information in the slightest, because this woman goes to the ER. She goes to the ER for the first time in her life with pain, and they're like, I think you have endometriosis. The 20-year-old ER doctor diagnoses her with endometriosis. If only life was that simple. You realize it took me almost 15 years for a diagnosis? 15 years. Imagine how many doctors I had to see within 15 years to get a diagnosis for endometriosis. The average is 10 to 11 years to get a diagnosis. And you're telling me she goes to the fucking ER and gets diagnosed by the 20-year-old ER doctor? Do you know when I went to the ER, the 20-year-old doctor had no idea how, like, ovarian cysts even form. Doctors don't know shit about endometriosis. They don't know shit about female health issues in general. And you're telling me she just goes to the ER, she gets diagnosed, and then she's like, oh, great, thanks. I have this diagnosis now, and now I can cope with my messed up uterus. If you know, you know, endometriosis is not a uterus condition. No, it's not. Everyone thinks that it is. Everyone's like, oh, I have to go get a hysterectomy for my endometriosis. No. No, endometriosis is tissue that's similar to the lining of the uterus, but it's not actual uterine tissue. So removing your uterus, blaming your uterus is going to do absolutely nothing. It still grows, right? And I know some people will fight me on that and say, oh, but I got a hysterectomy and it helps so much. Yeah, because a lot of times you have adenomyosis, which is tissue inside the uterus, and a hysterectomy is a cure for that, but doctors might not know that you have both. So it might have seemed like it helped your endometriosis, but it was helping your adenomyosis. Yeah, it's confusing, I know. But that's what I mean. Books like this are harmful because you're spreading misinformation. You think that you are just writing an innocent little book with endometriosis rep, but you're actually destroying years and years and years and years of research and people advocating and pushing to get the correct information out there, and you're just taking that away from us, Sally Rooney. Sally Rooney's really getting it today. I'm telling you, I am letting Sally Rooney have it, okay? Because she deserves it for this one. Sally Rooney basically knows as much about endometriosis as a regular gynecologist does. Next to nothing. And at number 4 was The Last Word by Taylor Adams. The last word is katana. That's it, that's the last word. So this is about this guy who's a horror writer, and this woman writes a bad review about him. She gives him 1 star, she leaves a bad review, he sees it, and he starts stalking her. And she's staying at this like remote cabin, kind of, I don't know, is it a cabin? Whatever. She's staying at like her friend's house, like house sitting, I think. And she's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and this author starts stalking her, leaving her creepy little messages. He's like, I know where you are. And it's this isolated thriller. And this was a mess. This was so laughable to me. This man, he's supposed to be like this tough villain, and he was just so irritating. His POVs in this book were so fucking ridiculous, silly, comical. He was not scary, he was not villainous. All he did was swing this katana around. I'm not even kidding. This book has the word katana probably 2,000 times. I actually think one of you guys counted for me, and you posted the total in one of my videos. I can't remember what the total was, but I thought it was hilarious that someone actually did that. All he did was get his katana out, and he's like, my katana, I'm gonna swing my katana, I'm gonna kill her with my katana. And like, all he did was like chase her around the house with this katana, and they were like running circles around the island in the kitchen, and I'm like, what is happening? There were like all these long action scenes of this guy just running around with a katana. Like, that was this entire book. The twist at the end was stupid. I just found this whole thing to be really silly, over the top, and ridiculous. I hate when thrillers have like so many action scenes, like just scenes where he's like chasing her and, you know, oh, he's gonna get her. Oh, he's gonna get her. Oh, no, he's too slow. And he's chasing her around. I was like, how many times are we gonna chase each other? What is this, Tom and Jerry? This is not realistic. This man probably would have passed out by now. Like, this this was just ridiculous, and it was really, really predictable. There were a lot of things up until the end that I completely predicted. I just felt like it was not well done. This author is kind of a miss for me, I'm not gonna lie. Taylor Adams, Taylor Katana, I think we are breaking up, okay? And at number 3 is this book is a thriller that is a it's a parody of The Last Mrs. Parrish, and this is basically about this woman who gets hired as a housemaid for this rich woman, and she's trying to steal her life and her husband, so on and so forth. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah. So this is trash. It's trash. in 2023, I tried to read a Frida McFadden book, and it will be the last Frida McFadden book that I ever read in my life, after the things that I've seen online about how, if her lawyer is watching this, by the way, this is just allegedly speaking, okay, but I have found threads online on Reddit of people saying that all of her books are basically the same thing as other books, aka alleged plagiarism. So do with that information what you will, but this is the exact replica of The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. The only thing that's different is it has a little epilogue at the end that is different than that book. So that way she could set it up for book 2. But this was not original, and to be quite honest, like, I didn't think the book was terrible, but because it was the exact same book as another book, that's why I obviously hate this. But I don't see the hype. I really don't see the hype. It was very just like basic, easy writing, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't understand why people are like absolutely freaking out about this book and this author, because there are so many better thrillers out there, and why are we wasting our time on this? In case Frida McFadden's lawyers would like to sue me, I'm just a baby. I don't have any money. Number 2 is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. You already know, if you are not new here, that I filmed an entire rant video on this. So there's 33 minutes of me ranting about this book on my channel if you want to hear more thoughts. But this is a romantasy. Can we please leave that word in 2023? This is a romance fantasy book about this girl who kills a wolf, and turns out the wolf is a fairy. So now this fairy comes over to capture her to live with them. According to their treaty, they either have to kill her or she has to live in a mansion of luxury with hot men everywhere. What do you think she picks? I don't know. She goes to live in this mansion, and this entire book is just her making these really cringy mental remarks about him and his muscles and his abs and how hot he is, and how she bets his smile is just so perfect and wonderful, and she wants to get railed by him. But then he's like not really a human. He's like a beast, fairy, wolf, horse, man hybrid. So why she finds him hot is just really, the math ain't mathing. I don't know. This is just one of those books where the main character's only purpose is to like have a crush on a boy. Like, that's what this book is giving. Absolutely nothing happens for like hundreds of pages. It's just the slowest slow burn cringy book ever, because the main character is just like, he's so hot. He's so hot. Oh yeah, his muscles are the biggest I've ever seen, and so is his cock. Like, that's this book. What I knew about our main character is that she peruses around a mansion, cries because she's missing her family, and she hopes that they're okay. Spoiler alert, they are. And then she paints pictures. That's it. That's all that I know about her. I don't even know what kind of paintings she makes. Like, she just paints pictures of mysterious objects, and thrilling. Great main character. Totally am rooting for her. Like I said, I have an entire 33-minute long rant on my channel about this if you want to hear more thoughts, but Then, my least favorite book, the worst book that I read this entire year, you guys probably already know. It's a 53-minute long video that I posted on my channel ranting about. It's Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Yeah, everyone else's favorite book of 2023 was my least favorite, because this is a dumpster fire. This book, we're following this girl who goes into this college. It's a war college where they all have to pick their military branch or like their military tactics or whatever, and she has to go into the rider's quadrant to learn how to ride dragons, and that's what this book is about. Okay, there is a love triangle that's going on with her and like her childhood bestie and this like evil guy that wants to kill her, right? And that's it. That's this entire book. This is the book that made me question if it's making sense more than I questioned if I'm making sense on this channel in 2023. This entire time I was like, this is not making sense. Why does this not make sense? Why does this college not make sense? Why does this writing not make sense? Why does this relationship not make sense? This book does not make sense. We are supposed to believe that this is some like die-hard school that you have to graduate because you have to fight in the war, and they are so desperate for, you know, the people to fight in this war, and they're so desperate to get dragon riders, and they're just so desperate, but they are able to randomly kill each other for absolutely no reason in this book. Why? Why are you letting the students kill each other if you're so desperate for people to fight in your damn war? What, this doesn't make sense, okay? Nothing about this book makes any damn sense. There are plot holes on plot holes on plot holes. It would be okay if there was more of like the dragons and more of the magic and more of the fantasy elements, but it once again ended up turning into this romance book that made no sense with these terrible love interests. Her only personality is having a crush on this evil guy that wants to kill her, but he doesn't actually want to kill her. He loves her. And like, that's this entire book. It was really cringy. Every page had her like lusting over this guy and her like having these horny teenage girl thoughts like, oh, I just want him to pin me down and fuck me. And like, this book was really YA. So it was so disturbing because this girl read like she was 15, like she was in like middle school, high school, and all of a sudden there is this like hardcore sex scene in the middle of the book. And so she labeled it as new adult, but it's like this gross, cringy sex scene that reads like they're 15, and I was like, this is so inappropriate. Like, I shouldn't be reading this, right? Like, I need Jesus right now. So I just find it really suspicious that apparently this book already got like the rights to a movie before the book was even released. All of these celebrities had the book before it was released. I just feel like there was some sketchy, weird thing going on with this book, and that's why it blew up. And then, not only that, but she slaps a second book out there, not even 6 months after this one was published. And you can tell, like, the writing writes like a fucking kindergartner. I'm not even kidding, because it's like, so, period, freaking, period, hot, period. Oh my god, period. This period is period, so, period, hot, period. That's how this book reads. Oh my gosh, this was so cringy. This was so bad. I have a really, really hard time believing that people love this book so much. I swear there's a weird, sketchy conspiracy going on with this book. Sorry, I'm holding my dog back because she keeps going after the turtle today for some reason. Sit down, please. Sit. Thank you, good girl. But yeah, this book was just so bad. Like I said, I have an entire friggin' hour-long rant video about this. There are so many videos on YouTube now going over all the things that actually don't make sense about this book, and I'm glad that more people are talking about the fact that this doesn't make sense. Also, what was with these romances? What was with these romances? This was bad. This was like really bad. I just can't believe I can't believe I read this book. So yeah, that is it. Those were the 10 books that I hated the most in 2023. Like I said, if you loved any of these books, good for you. I'm glad because I'm an adult. If you also hated these books, let me know in the comments down below. And I will see you in my next video. Hopefully you don't hate me, but if you do, I really don't care. Bye!